Yeah? Because our reality bubble is such, our experience and observations trust in them. So when we have our senses that we have, our eyes, our ears, our sense perception, our feeling of touch and smell, these are the things that we use in our everyday experience to understand the existence of things. For example, we can infer existence even of things that we don't see. For example, I haven't seen his brains, but I know he has a brain. Because I know to think, to talk, to argue, to discuss, to debate, you need this machine called brain, which is the thing that does all that processing power. I know that you exist because I can see you. Yeah? So I know that gravity exists even though I don't know. It has a strong attractive force on anything and bring it down on the center of this earth, on a bigger object. I know it exists by inference. So we operate our lives by, in our learning, to acquire knowledge by these various types. There's inductive logic, there's deductive logic. Tomorrow the sun's going to come up again. We have that faith because of the observation that we make every day. It's possible, according to people like our friends, that the sun would not rise again. It's possible. But we don't go with this belief system. We know according to all this. For example, imagine the three of your friends, right? You went into the room and you heard knock, knock, knock on your door. On the outside the door, it was only the two of them. Now, you're not going to assume it's Philippa and Lloyd's knocking on the door because you've just left your two friends outside the door. You'd say, it's only you two. You can infer that it's them. So when she comes in, you don't have to be a PhD holder to think who's left. Is it Philippa or is it your friend there? You can automatically say, you are the only one remaining. So we can make all of this kind of our reality observations, inferences. That's what we always say when our employer gives us money at the end of the day. £35 an hour, and you've worked 7.5 hours a day for 1 month, and you work out. Why do you trust those numbers? Why do you trust those numbers? So if it pays you now £1 and 2 pence instead of £4,000, you'll be happy with that because the numbers don't make any real sense, right? You'll be happy with the wages that you get. The contract was for £4,000 salary a month, for example, and they paid you £1 and 2 pence. And they say, look, the numbers, sometimes they change their meanings. 1 doesn't mean 1, 2 doesn't mean 2, 1 plus 1 doesn't mean 2. And you'd be saying, I'm happy. £1, 2 pence, it's okay. That's my salary. Would you? Would you? Why would you trust the numbers and the maths? Why would you say, look, 35 hours or whatever times by this, why would you trust those numbers? Because you know the numbers, the assigned value that we've given is what we operate our life by. If we assign this is a man and this is a woman, then we have to say he's a man and he's not a turtle, because that's what is assigned values. If we say someone married means they've gone through this process of marriage, what we call a ceremony of contract and so on, and someone who hasn't and hasn't ever done that is a bachelor, you cannot have a married bachelor. So this is what we call the principle of non-contradiction. Two things which are mutually exclusive cannot be true at the same time. If you exist, you can then say, I also not exist. You can't have this mutually contradictory stance as true. You have to reject the opposite. But these friends of ours, everything is possible. The principle of non-contradiction can be violated. In fact, life becomes meaningless, worthless, only when it comes to religion. When it comes to everyday life, I'm sure when he goes to a restaurant, he's not going to just say, why did you give me cement, like I asked him earlier? And he eats it. It's fine, maybe it's food and eat it. It's not going to eat it. No one will do that. So what we are saying is, when it comes to reality of our existence and our Creator's existence, we need to be sincere. We need to be honest to our own selves. By somehow reading Descartes, by reading Hume, by reading Bertrand Russell, by reading all these philosophers, and you think, you know what, I don't have to believe in anything which is true or untrue, real, unreal. That is simply an excuse. Are these reasons some people have some brain changing conditioning, brainwashing, by something they have read, seen? Media is constantly brainwashing us. Constantly. Netflix, you name it, constantly telling us that there could be all these matrix things out there and so on and so forth. The reason why they say so, because they want you to come away from this reality and go into a bubble in which you live in a life of everything could be
so
and
that's
so
what they're arguing about?
How can they argue? They don't exist.
True.
Yeah?
True.
Maybe this is one thing we should take. If you argue, you exist. Yeah?
So you believe everyone exists? What do you believe?
Why can we not take this basic set of assumptions that, you know what, we know we exist. If we didn't exist, we would be having that conversation. And then, you know, have a discussion in terms of like, why are we not worshipping and being grateful to our Creator? Why are we not Muslims? We should be asking this question. Why have we not surrendered our will to our Creator by following the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Why are we not following this final guidance from God, the Quran, like this, telling us the purpose of our life here, telling us what's going to happen after death, telling us what awaits for us, whether heaven or hell? That is the discussion, real discussion we should be having, instead of simply having some fun and entertainment in Speaker's Corner, thinking, you know what, I spoke to some Muslims there, had some good entertainment, it was just all for the sake of entertainment. Seriously? One day we will all die. You can be deluded in thinking that you are never going to die, but this is a fact of life. We are programmed to die.
What happens after we die?
Exactly.
Do you know?
How can we finite human beings know? We can't. Unless you're dead, and then you'll find out. But before you're dead, how can you find out? Unless someone else comes and tells you, but would you trust them? Exactly. So we can find this information only when our Creator tells us. We can be certain.
So what has He told you? Has He told you?
Our purpose of life is to worship our Creator. And worship is not simply just going to a particular place of worship and giving the gratitude to God. In everything that we do in our life, the way we live our life, if it's in accordance to God's will, that becomes worship. So if I smile at my Muslim brother, how are you brother today? That becomes worship. If I pick a thorn from the ground so that you don't get punctured or whatever, it becomes worship. Yeah? So whatever we do which pleases God in accordance to the reasons He's created us, and we follow the commands and avoid His prohibitions, this is worship. So we, leave here aside, we'll go. If we die, it will be to find out our purpose of life. Because if this was our life test to determine ourselves who goes to heaven and hell, because that tells us. So they can test us who's better in deeds. So we can find certain whether we deserve to go to a place of paradise or of hellfire. Because He could have treated us now. Do you know why I say so? Because human beings have been created with the faculty of intellect, the rational choice of using our intellect wisely or not. Choosing, the choice. So I can use a knife to kill someone or not to kill someone and do good things like, you know, remove obstacles. How we use a knife to cut, make roads, eat an apple and something like this, right? Knife to use in life-saving surgery. Not killing them, but saving them. But if we use it wrongly, then how do we expect our Creator, who is the most just, to treat us both the same? So because of the fact that we have the amount of free will given to us, and some people would not use it wisely, deliberately, and they do all the things which we know as bad. They kill, they rape, they oppress, they torture, and so on and so forth, which you and I agree is bad things. How can we expect the consequences of these evil actions by that individual the reward they get is the same as someone who does good things. Where is the justice? It's not fair. So that is why this life is given as a test for us to know whether we deserve to go to a place of heaven, which is eternal happiness, joy, tranquility and bliss and so on. And to filter out those who become arrogant, stubborn, neglectful of their Creator, and they became their own God, and then they rejected God thereby. They're going to have to end up facing that consequence.
So if someone was making bad choices their whole life until the very last day, what do you think would happen?
God gives the chance until the point of their death, but not when the death is almost there. So when you know you're going to die for sure, it's not going to your repentance will not be accepted. It has to be before that point. The point, the interim point is before, when the death is already approaching you, like on your neck, for example, the soul's coming out. Before that time, you have all this opportunity to rectify yourself, because you may have been living your life foolishly, but God is merciful. He looks into your heart and your ability and your desire to turn to good, to return to Him, because He's not only just, He's also merciful and forgiving. So even if someone did something bad but he returned sincerely, God is merciful, but He does compensate the things that has been violated through that person's what happened to him. If that person was a murderer and murdered people, they also need to have justice done to them, so they will be compensated. That's where the justice is then demonstrated, because God is just and merciful at the same time. So God could have simply put those people who would use this excess choice wrongly, and He could have simply, because He's just, put them into hellfire for them to be punished. And those who will be good, put them into heaven for their enjoyment. If you are in heaven, would you complain? You don't complain, you're happy. There's nothing to complain. Joy and contentment, happiness, bliss, tranquility. There's no complaint. But the one who is in hellfire, they'll say, I haven't done anything. Why are you punishing me with fire, with hellfire, with all this punishment? And if God said, but I knew that you're going to end up like this, because I knew if I put you out there, you will do these things, so I spared all of that, put you direct in there. They'll say, but I haven't done anything. Give me a chance. To remove that excuse, think about this way. God has placed us here and giving us that chance. Demonstrate to yourself that you are worthy of going into the place of Jannah, eternal bliss and happiness, and demonstrate to yourself that you don't deserve to go to hellfire, that you earn the grace of God, His mercy. That is what we are doing here. So if we don't use our minds properly, then how can you arrive at such conclusions to this matter? That's the outlook. If you see some wallet on the road, something, and you open it, it's got money, credit cards, you would not go and start spending it. You will know every single penny you'll be accountable for on the day of judgment, because that is someone else's money. Maybe that's all they have. They've worked all their hard life to earn this money, to send their kids to school, to buy food for their children and so on, and you wasted it away. You don't even know the reality. But if you had the mentality of a Muslim, you would say, oh, now, you know what? I have to find the owner. Who is it? You'll probably wait and go around and eventually say, you know what? I don't have the time for that. Let me give it to someone. Let me take it to the security office in your work. And you know what? I found this watch, this wallet. Can you make sure it reaches to the people? It was at that time, at that place. You will try to dispose of that in a way that is appropriate. You're not going to just, This is the outlook. It will change when you connect yourself with your Creator. That is what it means to be a Muslim, someone who submits and surrender their will to the will of the Creator. Peace doesn't come that easily. Peace comes when you're connected with the reality. So when I know that I am a creation of God, how am I going to be so arrogant and say, you know what, I'm not going to die. I can control my life. I'm going to live forever. That will be a real delusion. So, if you are not a Muslim yet, I really will urge you to think, what is the Islamic message? It's no other than worshipping the one true God. That's the simple message of Islam. You worship none but God alone. You don't ascribe a partner to God and say, you know what, God has a brother or a son or a daughter or a family, or God is also my nation and my flag and my pop stars. You don't give that kind of gratitude. Only accept God. Only God to be himself. And you live your life accordingly, according to what God has said. If God says, for example, do not oppress others, you live your life accordingly, not oppressing others. So, Islamic belief system is not something you will discover which is alien to your thinking and your feeling. Yeah? I think is that your friend? You have to